Lady Zoom says we're being recorded. We're officially going live with Alex from Jane. As our students, so the way that we do these trainings is our students get front row access in our Zoom room. So if you want to unmute yourself, share, post questions in the chat, you're always welcome to do that, okay? Our big community, if you're watching this on Facebook, you're a member of our free community, so you just get to watch in the audience. We love having you here. We are meeting today with Alex from Jane App. If you guys don't know Jane App, first of all, I'm Dr. Jody Dinnerman. I'm the founder and creator of All Things Soup School. I'm also an expert mistake maker and solution creator. So when I went staffless in my practice here in New Jersey, right, I needed a solution yesterday to make things really streamlined in my office so that I could look on any screen I was in front of to make it work for me. B, it needed to be cost effective. I didn't want to spend $1,000 a month on my software program, which I was actually currently doing. I was currently spending so much money and the program sucked. You guys, like, I hated it. I hated going onto my computer to schedule my patients. I had to remotely log into a computer that was sitting next to me to be able to schedule. At one point, that was still true. And they're still charging me for customer service. So I really needed a solution because I knew that I didn't want to have staff in my office. I knew that I wanted my patients to be able to schedule on their own. I knew that I wanted my patients to get texting reminders. I knew that I wanted it to be pretty and easy to look at. I knew that it needed to be streamlined. I wanted people to be able to take a picture of that funky grid and check in on their phone. I wanted all of those features. And I actually at the time had an associate working for me. She's like, check out Jane, check out Jane, check out Jane. I'm like, nah, Jane's too like hip and retro and millennial for me. It's just not my jam. I'm too old for it. And then finally, when Soup School was becoming a thing, I called Jane and I spoke to my pal Ashley over at Jane, who's like the guy for marketing at Jane. And I said, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What do you think of it? Do you think it's something that you'd want to play with? And they were like, oh my God, yes. So that was my relationship with Jane and how we got started. And I was just telling Alex, I'm actually going to a convention this weekend or next weekend to represent Jane. So we've really come far and we've gotten so many of our soup students nice and comfy, cozy in their Jane seats. So at least once a quarter, we try to do these sessions called Geek Out with Alex. I'm going to introduce Alex in a hot minute here. And Alex comes in and just lets us pull questions through his brain and come up with solutions for specifically for soup students, which is our online school for wellness practitioners. We want to make sure that you guys have real deal solutions so that when you got the baby, this is literally a snapshot of my practice. I've got a baby in one hand. I've got a toddler pulling on my leg. I've got Kuna barking in the background. My phone is ringing. I can feel my watch texting. I've got 3 people waiting to get on the table. I have 5 people on the table. Someone's knocking on my door. This is all happening at the same time. And someone's saying, Jody, how do I pay you today? So how do you take that freeze frame moment and give everybody what they're looking for in that moment? Jane makes it totally possible to do that. Even if their fire isn't put out immediately, like if it's something that I just jot it down and I get to it after, or I give the list to my virtual assistant after, that's usually how it really rolls in my practice. So today we're going to be focusing on taking notes in Jane. How do you take notes without staff sitting there with you, right? If you have a virtual assistant or if you don't have anybody helping you at all, what is the most easeful, gentle way and compliant? Remember, one of the core values of Staffless Practice is integrity. We want to make sure that you guys aren't cutting corners when it comes to note taking. That's why we have Greg from Bulletproof Chiro come in and teach about compliance, what needs to be in your soap notes, right? So Jane makes it really possible for all of that to happen. I just want to say one more thing. All of my soup students have access to all of my Jane forms. All of them are in there for you. My pediatric forms, my prenatal forms, my exams, all of it is within Jane. Just reach out to me and I'll get you access to it. With that being said, drum roll, please, the the silent drum roll. Here's Alex. And Alex is hands down one of the coolest dudes I know. We've never met in person. We've just met over Zoom, right? And he's the guy for us to reach out to when we have questions about how to just crush Jane like the rock stars that we are. So Alex, I'm going to actually hand it over to you. I'm going to pin you.
I appreciate it, Jody. I
So
appreciate it.
screen share away, show us all of the
Yes.
funky, fancy features of Jane when it comes to note taking. And
Okay,
I'm going to be
perfect.
watching in the group for questions. Also, my front row seat members, my soup students, you guys, if you need anything, just raise your hand. Okay, go for it.
Awesome. Thank you. What an intro, by the way. If you guys didn't know, also, I started at Jane on the customer support side. So if you have any questions, anything like that, I'm more than used to, answering those things on the fly. It's actually how our Jody and I's relationship, I should say, started. She would call on the support line and I would be answering all the time. And even though I live in Canada, I learned all about the US insurance and
Can
US
I say one more
everything.
thing? Let me
Yes.
say one more thing about that. You guys, seriously, it took me over 30 hours to get Jane set up. It took a long time. And I was the person on the phone in the supermarket asking 5 questions in 5 different ways, because that's how I gather information, by asking a lot of questions. And the people on the other end of the phone at Jane, it's like Smurf Village, no joke, right? You call them, they're like, yay, we have another caller. And they love helping. Like I don't know how you create the culture to do what you do, because obviously I suck at creating that kind of thing, like not a staff person at all, right? You guys have got it going on. When I call Jane, I feel like they're waiting by the phone and they can't wait to serve. That's truly how I feel every time I call. Okay, I'll stop talking.
You're not far off from it. You're not far off at all. And I like to remind everyone that if you ever have any hesitations about calling, if you've in the past not had a great time with support, our mission here at Jane, and everyone is with this mission, is to help the helpers, and that's you guys. So if we can help you, that makes our job a lot easier and a lot more rewarding. So I'll end it there. My name's Alex. I'm on the Jane team. I make videos and content for all of you to watch, essentially, as well as our internal team. But today, let's talk about charting. I'm going to share my screen here. It doesn't work if you don't say I'm going to share my screen. I've learned that in the last Zoom year we've had. I'll move all this Zoom stuff so we're out of the way. You can all see my screen. You might be familiar with this page. It's the Jane schedule page. But with that, I'm actually going to hop off of here just for a second. Just to talk about charting really quickly, I wanted to mention that I actually did a large blog post where I interviewed I didn't interview our co-owner, Allie. She actually sat down and interviewed 5 different chiropractors from all over the US, actually, and one in Australia. And we took those interviews and I actually compiled them into a blog post here, which you can read. There's different tips from all sorts of members of the charting community. You can access this by heading to jane.app /blog, or just clicking on this little blog link here and into the charting tips from Jane's chiropractic community. But as you can see here, I've put all sorts of stuff. We can talk about Dr. Roxanne, Dr. Nick, Trudy, all this stuff. They have videos and charting highlights of every single one. You can catch the conversation on what was actually chatted about and all that fun stuff. So I just wanted to mention that if you did need some extra tips after this, definitely head here. We have a whole bunch of stuff for whether it's chiropractors, every sort of wellness practitioner. But this one specifically for the chiropractors. But that being said, I wanted to hop into charting in Jane. And again, I just have to move all this Zoom stuff so it's out of my way. But I'm on our US demo clinic here. And if you don't know, our Jane's US demo clinic is basically a kind of like a sandbox, I guess you could call it, where we can go in, play around with things in a consequence-free environment. Anything we do here is going to be refreshed. Don't have to worry about it. I'm first going to sign in as our chiropractor here, and we'll go in as, I think it's a Regal Surfboard this week. If you ever want to access this, reach out to us. We have a weekly password. We can send you that, no problem. You might be familiar with this page too. When I sign in as a practitioner, I'm going to get this day tab at the top left here. And the day tab is basically your, I'm going to call it like your home base or your hub of basically your day-to-day. It's got everything on this dashboard here, from your total patients, your total visits, utilization, all these fun demographics. You can switch this between like 7 days, 90 days. If you really want to look at a year in this, you can also do that too. You'll notice we don't have a lot of information as this is a fake clinic. But yeah, as you can see all these different graphs change and, alter. We also have some other information here, like your top patients, top treatments, charts, which ones have been signed, which ones are left in draft, and which ones are not started. So it's a nice little indication if maybe you missed a chart or maybe you didn't. But to start actually charting, let's maybe go through a regular workflow here. Say it's 8 a.m. and Andrea comes in for her appointment. If I'm in the day tab here, I can simply click into the appointment, and that's going to bring me directly to her chart entries. And that's going to be the same for every single client. Whether if you click the first time on this left-hand side, it'll go right to their chart entries. And what's great about doing this is if I create a new chart entry here, say I want to make this, let's do Cairo subsequent. And when I create this chart entry, you'll see this little calendar pop up on the chart entry, and that's going to link both the appointment and the chart entry together. So we can tell that this was made on March 3rd, 2022, 8 o'clock, and it's for this appointment specifically. And this is great for reporting in the future. If you want to go look and see if you've signed all your charts or not, this will definitely help you in that sense. So now that we've clicked into our chart, you can see we've already have stuff like our check boxes here, check boxes, note boxes, if you want to actually type out your notes. If you want to go a little further with that, another cool feature in Jane is our phrases. To use these phrases, you can set them up in your staff tab. I'll touch on that in just a second, but it looks like this. Essentially, if you type in // and then say, let's say P. I have one called plan of care here, and I can click on that or hit enter. And then just from typing /P, this whole text comes out, and I can edit this. I can change it if I need to, whatever it might be. Same thing for another one, like if I type in like letter, I have this whole to whom it may concern letter popped out. So if I wanted to do a letter at the end of my chart notes or something like that, also perfect. This is great for if you have common codes that you bill or anything that you need to include into your chart too. Further to that, to get a little bit, maybe this isn't speed oriented or anything like that, but to make your charts, I guess, easier to read in the future, you can also head into all of this, and we've included formatting, I should say, for all of our chart notes fields. So if you want to do this in the subjective notes, if we go down to like a spine here and we type a note down below, we can also type in, say, I'll just type in spine. I'm not a real doctor, guys, by the way. These aren't real notes. I just know how Jane works. But if I highlight anything here, I can bold it. I can underline it. You can also do this with key commands, as in like if I wanted to underline Command and U on a Mac or PC, Control U, et cetera, et cetera. But yeah, so we've included formatting. We've included phrases, all sorts of fun stuff like that. And if I really wanted to go a step further, and you know how Jody was talking about how she talks into her phone and has her virtual assistant type it up, you can almost use Jane as your own virtual assistant in this sense. If I hit, I believe it's Command twice, Control twice, I can actually include annotation. And so anything that I will be talking about here, Jane is going to be typing out for me, as you can see right here. Once I hit enter.
Is that Command? Okay, my world is being rocked a little bit here, I'm gonna admit.
Pretty cool.
What did you hit, and is it true on every keyboard?
Yes, so for Macs at least, which I'm using, actually, let me take a step back. Any computer with integrated, or any device, I should say, with integrated dictation, like an iPhone or an Android, a lot of the more modern PCs have them too, or a Mac, you can hit, for example, on the Mac, it's Control twice. That's going to show up with this little microphone here, and then I'll be able to talk, and it's going to, type out whatever I'm speaking. And it's usually pretty good, but if it does mess up, I can always type in at the end.
I'm wondering how many people are talking to their keyboard right now.
And I will say, actually, I'm not screen sharing this right now, but you do have to enable this in your keyboard settings on your Mac. So if you're going to, if you go into your system preferences, let me just, sorry.
So for those who use the make pretend the PCs,
yep.
You see what I did there, right? If you use a PC, just Google how to
Yeah,
get your keyboard to listen to you talk and type for you so that your life can become so much easier. Google that
yeah,
and see what you find.
I'd definitely Google it, and it's easy enough, I'm sure. But if you want to go onto your Mac, if you're in your system preferences, hit the keyboard section, and then there's a little tab at the top called dictation. Just turn that on and enable that, and then you can just hit, by default, it's Control twice, and then that will be enabled. So that's a huge time saver, at least in my eyes. Depending on how much you want to use that, how much you don't. I really enjoy that feature myself. I do this for all of our videos whenever I'm writing a script or anything like that. So that's 3 off the top that are really good. I'm going to stop right now. If there's any questions in the chat, or if there's any questions I can answer here while I'm looking at this chart.
I don't have any questions in the chat yet. Let me just check on Facebook. Anybody on Facebook watching us and you have questions, just leave a comment. I think that's it. No questions so far.
Perfect. Okay. Well, that's great. To go further with this, I like to take a little step back from the actual charting aspect, and I'm going to go into our staff tab and talk about how setting up our chart templates can really help us in the future. So we'll go into our chart template section here. And if you haven't explored it already, I'm going to just jump into our template library. Template library is an incredible feature in Jane. It's also way faster now than it used to be when I'm sure Jody experienced this. It used to take a good while to load, but we've made some major improvements to make it faster here. So the template library, it's community built entirely. As you can see, it used to have a total here, but there's over 20,000 different templates you can look through. If you wanted to look in chiropractic specifically, hop into chiropractic and you can take a look. If you wanted to maybe search up Jody, even you could look up Dr. Jody, all sorts of things. If you have friends in
and we
here
have a special code for soup students only. So
perfect.
For my students, if you want all of my stuff, just send me a text. You should already have access to it, but if you want my stuff, send me a text.
Yeah, of course. So if we click on any of these templates in this template library, I'll do this full case history exam. It's probably our most popular template on the whole thing, but I'll add it to my account. And once I add it to my account, Jane's going to do a little thinking here. We have our full case history exam. It's going to be under my templates. And once it's under my templates, it's mine. So with that, I can go in here and I can change anything I want. I can make edits to everything. I can change the label of this if I wanted to make this something like, I don't know, second primary complaint or something like that. Or if I wanted to go in, also, I'm better at talking into my computer than I am typing. If I wanted to add in anything here, I can click on the ellipsis in the middle and click on this little plus button to add an item. I could even add a second template into this as well. If I want to put a range of motion, I can do that too. There's so many options with this. If you have any questions when it comes to like transitioning one of your existing chart templates into Jane, feel free to contact us and call us. We're more than happy to do that. And all of our people on our support team are experts at all of this stuff. And if they don't know how, someone else will. So we'll definitely be able to help you out there. One thing I'm going to hop into actually just on top of the templates here, some cool chart features that I really think speed up your charting in general are the smart options and narrative, which are a relatively recent release. If you haven't gotten into using these yet, a smart option and narrative is basically, you can kind of combine it with it's like a checkbox, but it's also like a note box, but it's also like, it's much more than that. It makes sense just to show you. So as you can see here, we have our smart options and narrative. I'll click into it to edit it. And from here, I can change the label. Maybe I want to make this like, let's experience or something like that. From here, I can choose my style. If I want like these buttons, like it is on the back here, or if I want check boxes, or if I want drop-down menus, sliders, whatever it might be, whatever your preference is. We can also display the sign note as narrative selected options. You'll see that once we actually get to it. And then we have the option to, oh, excuse me, I wanted the narrative. So we do have a narrative. I can now start to build a narrative. But before we do that, let's start with our subjects and what we're going to be talking about. So maybe we are talking about their experience with walking or something like that. So we'll say walking. Another one will be running. And another one can be laying down. That's my favorite. And then out of our choices, these will be our choices for each of these subjects. So if their walking has become worse, the same, or better, or if their running has become the worst, the same, or better. And we'll keep that just simple right now. So with that being said, we have our subjects and we have our choices. We can then start to build a narrative so that Jane's going to tell this narrative on our signed notes. So we have the intro here. So maybe we'll say the patient, like our example says. And you can see anytime that I type into this intro or subject or outro, the preview down below here is going to show what it's going to show up as once I select these options. So you can see the patient walking is worse. And then we can choose our subject phrasing here. So we'll say insert subject, which is again, walking, running, or laying down, is insert choice, which means walking is worse or running is better, et cetera, et cetera. And this is a very simple explanation of it, but you can go so far with this. And again, if you want help with this, we have tons of guides, or give us a call. For our outro, we'll say, again, I like our example here, during this visit. And so then we have our preview. The patient, I've actually put the patient's, excuse me. The patient's walking is worse during this visit. Perfect. Now, once I have this, I'll hit save. Excuse me.
Alex,
Yes.
I didn't see how you differentiated among those three items. So how would you say the walking versus the running versus the lying down is worse?
Great question. And so once we get here, now that we have our smart options and narrative, we have the option to choose each of these options. So say we're going to say the walking, our patient says it's worse. We don't have to type anything out. We can just click worse. And then Jane's going to write our little narrative down below. Oh, excuse me. The patient's walking is worse during this visit. And if I want to click running as well, the patient's walking is worse and running is the same during this visit. And
Can you do this on an iPad too, Alex?
Yeah, any device. This works on any device you want. So if you're on an iPad, it works even better. You can just, I need some water or something. You need to just tap
Alex,
on.
you need to get a Justin, my friend. Just saying.
I definitely do. I've been looking for a good chiropractor here, but Jody, you're not in Canada. So
all you need to do is text me your location. I'll find you one of my people.
Okay, after this, we will definitely talk.
Okay. No, Alex, what's your address right now on Facebook? No, I'm just kidding.
To everyone out, if you want to send me things, by all means, I'll create a PO box. No.
I'm also going to say, so while we're on this screen, Dana's also asking how she can find the most easy process to putting her normal findings down so that they're automatically, I guess it would just be duplicating the SOAP note, right?
Yeah, you can either duplicate your SOAP note, but if you also want to pre-fill any of your templates, so like maybe you have, I will add in a note here. So if I want in this note, if I always have a finding of like this patient is, you could give me an example here, but
has a really high scoliosis in the in the upper thoracic spine.
Sir, yeah.
Right.
So
whatever.
Let's make sure I spelled this right. Excuse me, I'm on.
It's pretty bad, Alex.
That's sure. We'll go with that. That's okay. You guys can get it. Again, I talk into my computer. I don't type into it. But as you can see here, I have this now pre-filled. So if I save this note and I go to, again, our day tab and we go to chart for a patient, we'll go to Andrea again. I can create my new chart entry here. And I didn't give this a name, but it's just a new chart template. When I open it up, it's already got the note in there. And you can even go and in these, say if I wanted to take this a step further, I could go to the staff tab again, chart templates, new chart template. If I wanted to maybe bold scoliosis or something, all of the formatting that I do, even if it's like a note or like a bullet point or anything like that, anything I have here, I save this, it's going to pop up anytime I open it up on a patient's chart. So hop in here, create a new chart entry, new chart template. And again, all of my formatting stays, everything will stay, and I can just go from there.
I have a question from Matilda. Is support from, I hate it when I drop these like truth bombs in a Zoom and it's like the coolest thing I've ever shown anybody ever. And then someone comes in with a question like I didn't even just say how cool that was. So let's just take a moment and say, wow, that was really cool. Dolores Ward's file rocks. So Matilda is asking if support is extra for Jane and are there support plans? I also want to say that our people get their first month of Jane free, which is ridiculously cool.
Just mention Soup School in your sign up.
Yeah. So what support's available, what hours, what platforms?
Yeah, for sure.
Wants to know about?
Yeah, great question. And our support is available 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Every day of the week, I should say every weekday. And that's our calling service. So that's going to be anytime in those hours that you call, you'll have someone to talk to. If you ever need to access that and you have Jane already, you can head to the Need Help button at the top here and you can call Jane. We actually just revamped this. If we have someone on our live chat monitoring that, you'll also see this will be available. It often is. I'm not sure why it isn't now. It might just because we're on the demo clinic. But if we have the live chat available, you can also type and you don't have to even talk to someone. If you're like me and you're not great at relaying your problems. Or you can also email us, and we have people working 7 days a week on emails. If you email us on the weekend, we'll also get back to you then too.
And then if you call and there's a wait, they'll just say, just drop your phone number and we'll call you back as soon as possible. And usually it's a couple of minutes. And then my virtual assistant usually does email because she likes to have a recording of all of the stuff that she learns. And then we actually make a bank of like the common things that come up for my practice. So again, remember in the beginning of this call, I said you want to hit a lot of buckets at once. So while you're getting these answers from Jane, create a knowledge bank and put it in your SOP so that the next person that you train or the next person who comes and works in your practice, they have all of this information for them. You can't have too much.
Completely right. And I also like to mention, while we're on this need some help button or this need help section here, we also have the guide available, and basically any question we've been asked more than twice, we make a guide for it. So if you wanted to look up something about intake forms, type in here intake forms, and we've got, you can see intake forms for regular, intake forms multidisciplinary, intake forms require a signature setting. We even have a workshop that I recorded that one. You can see my name right here. Anything you like, we have a guide for it pretty much. And if we don't have a guide for it, give us a call. Or even if the guide doesn't make sense, give us a call and we'll happily go through that with you. There's no extra charge and we're more than happy to chat. Like, as Jody said at the start of this call, we're basically sitting by our computers waiting for a call to come in so we can go, hello, we're from Jane. So definitely do that. While a couple other things I like to mention while we're on the screen still, we also have a Jane community group on Facebook. You can head here and you can talk with other people that are using Jane on Facebook here. There's people post questions. You can, other people, there's lots of help. Excuse me, my own chats are popping up now. That's awkward. But yeah, so if you go on to, Facebook itself, like you're on now, if you're watching the stream, you can head to the Jane.app community forum, chat with 6,200 other members, excuse me, and also head in there. Two other places I like to mention, well, system status. Jane doesn't really go down too often, if at all. So if you ever need to check if there's something happening with Jane or if it's maybe just on your end, system status is a great option to do that. And lastly, this is my favorite section of Jane because I surf through here all the time, is our feature requests section. And this is on our Canny forums. And on here, if you ever have a request for something at Jane, like maybe you'd like automatic messages when a patient hasn't filled out their intake form or a birthday text or something like that, you can head in here. Tons of people have requested a slew of different things. You can search, for example, maybe I wanted like more colors or something like that. And as you can see, I'm spelling it in the Canadian way, but more treatment colors, et cetera, et cetera. And if you want to come in here, voice your own opinion, leave a comment. I actually personally read through a ton of these, and I put an internal podcast together for our team to kind of get a idea of what's out there. So you're definitely listened to. We're hearing you guys. So please voice your opinion on this feature request form if you so please.
Hey, Alex.
Yes.
Can you, I've got Julie on Facebook asking, can you just go into the templates and see if there's anything on SOT
Of
and
course. Yeah.
or NET, neuro emotional technique? I know that there is, but I just want to see.
SOT. Oh, that's sorry, SOT.
Yep, there we go.
Right there. Advanced prenatal.
Yeah. And there's an SOT treatment. You guys
Perfect.
really, whatever you can think of, it's in here.
SOT treatment.
And then
So
can you also do NET, neuro emotional technique? It'll probably be under NET.
let's see. It's got to be something.
I know that there is something because one of our clients is actually an NET practitioner and he's got SOAP note.
Sorry, Jane's just doing a little thinking here.
Neuro emotional, NEURO.
Yep, sorry. Jane's just doing a little bit of thinking here.
Jane's doing her jig.
That's okay. That's okay. And also, I like to mention, if you ever want to head onto our demo website here and come and look for your own chart templates, the chart template library shares the same one that you would be using on like your own account. So if you head into the template library, if it's on the demo site here, you'll definitely find these same templates on your regular Jane account.
Did you guys see, just a by the way comment, did you see how his screen just froze and he could have gotten freaked out and it could have been awkward silence, but he used the time to educate us about another thing. So we weren't even thinking about the screen. That's the kind of thing I want you to think about when you're educating people in a Zoom, because this kind of stuff happens. So you have to have a backup plan. Just a by the way thought. Jesse's asking, what's the best way to add these pre-formatted features if I'm currently duplicating chart notes and hand editing, i.e. I'm creating a new note from scratch from the new automated note template?
Yeah, okay, gotcha. That's a great question. And if you have, I will say, to preface this, the best way is going to be doing it from that chart template. But if you wanted to do it this way for like kind of by hand, I'll say, I can go into any of my patients' profiles here. Again, I got to move zooms to get out of my way. That's okay. And say, I'll just duplicate this exact. Oh, this is soprano dialogue, but I'll do this basic chiropractic exam form again.
Yeah.
We have this. And if I add in, of course, there's not a great note section for me to do here. Let's just do a note. That's fine. You might not think I'm freaking out, but inside I'm going crazy here.
You're so cool, Alex. You're such a Jane geek.
Just to say, I like to mention that I used to be in radio. And so in radio, stuff always goes wrong, but you can never say it. No one actually sees it. No one's ever on Zoom like this with you. So you just got to keep a straight face and make sure everything is going, something's going smoothly, I say. Anyways, I digress. In our note section here, if you're wanting to keep that formatting all the way through, say this is like your existing duplicated note. I'll just say this. Let's actually use this is my note, and Jane is going to be typing it for me.
So cool.
Perfect. I love that. And if I bold any of this, if I, add in a bullet point, again, just gibberish, I can duplicate this. And then I will have another one with all of my formatting duplicated as well. Any of your formatting is going to keep on going as long as you're duplicating from that form. And if, like, for example, you want to do your existing one, like I'll duplicate from here. Now I have all of this. If there's a note I wanted to fix up, like intact with pelvic floor connection, I can bold all of this. All you have to really do is do your formatting for one of your duplicated items, and then just make sure you're duplicating from there going forward. If you even wanted to pin this or attach it to the top, I'll sign off on this. We have it at the top here. And then I can even star this so that it's always up here. And I always have the option, no matter what date it is, no matter how I'm sorting, I can always come here, duplicate, and all of my information is still bolded. It still has all the formatting that I previously had to.
I just want to show for a minute what we do for this stuff. Just
I can stop my share.
One more point really quick, Alex. I just
of course.
find one more screen.
Of course. Let me me think here. That's a great question.
Mm.
The other thing I do like to mention here for these kind of quick charting tips, I'll say, is the ability to kind of like, I like to call it charting in like blocks, I'll say. And essentially you can chart in blocks in the sense of like, we'll create a chart template. Maybe we want this only for like a specific thing that we're doing. Like this range of motion is a good example. Maybe I want this range of motion in more things than just its own template. You can come onto any of your chart notes and you can add an item to any of them. And further from that, you can also add in any sort of chart template. So if I wanted my Chiro subsequent on the bottom of this range of motion, I can do that. And then I can chart in another segment down here if I wanted to add another item and kind of just build my charts out as if I'm like building something in Lego, like build from the bottom and then just start building on top of it with your different chart templates. And I don't have a great setup already, but
you can just
kind of
adding like domino.
Exactly.
Effect. I just want to, can I stop your share?
Yep, let's stop that.
Okay. And let me just say two things. So the first thing I'm going to say is everybody take a deep breath. Because it's easy to get overwhelmed with this stuff and you don't want to get overwhelmed with this stuff, and know that Alex looks at these screens every day. So he moves through them really quickly. It takes time to get used to them. It's like learning a new language. The nice thing is that learning the language of Jane is pretty easy to learn, especially for me. And I'm usually pretty slow to learn something new like that. Usually I just give up and say, screw it. And I don't take the time to do it. But I learned it and I loved it that much. So the other thing, I want to show you a couple of things. So what we kept coming across is our students saying, I've had Jane for so long and I can't get to it. I don't have the time to spend transferring my files and putting my note systems in and getting my time budget up, my calendar and making it online and getting it's a lot of different steps. So we kept getting asked, and finally I'm like, well, why don't we just do that service for you? So one of the things that we created for our SOUP students is called the Staffless Solution Program. And what we can do is we can go into, this looks just like Soup School, right? This should look familiar to you. We collect everything you could possibly need to think of for your Jane App account. Even like branding, what colors do you want? I show you where they show up. And then we give you a spreadsheet. And on the spreadsheet, all you have to do is listen to the lesson and give us the answers that we need to build your Jane App account for you. And I always say that a Jane App account takes about, for our team to build for you, about 8 hours, where it took me 30 hours to build my Jane App account with my son's help too. So it was really closer to 50 hours. So that is available to you. And what it ends up looking like is you watch the video and then you fill this out. And some of our clients say to us, I have no interest in watching more lessons and filling out more spreadsheets. So what that would look like is we just do a Zoom with you and we collect all of the information, like, okay, what are your favorite colors? And we pick colors together. Okay, when do you see regular practice members? We put your schedule together. When do you want extended appointments? Do you want them on a telehealth call? We know all of the things to ask so that you don't have to recreate the darn wheel over and over and over again. So that's what we do for our, yes, we can do it for people who are not SOUP students. It's just more expensive. Everything is cheaper when you're a SOUP student. I give you guys the best deal going on all of the best deals. There were other questions that I wanted to put in front of you, Alex. If we don't,
yeah, I'm seeing some in the chat
of our note, does blank question still display it? That's a good question, Amber.
Yeah, great question.
So Amber was actually the inspiration for this call. So each one of our students, when they join up with us, whether they're a Staffless Solution client or they're a SOUP student, if they have really great questions, we name a system after them. So this is actually the Amber call. I don't know if she knows that. And we named something after you too, Brian. I just can't remember what it was. But it's coming, the information's coming to you because it's when you have it, when you watch a video, when you sign up for SOUP School, if it sounds like I'm talking to women only, that's called the Bryant effect. And we're deleting that effect so that it's men and women are welcome to SOUP School. Everybody who brings something to my attention, I take it like, it's like I tattoo it on my arm. It's that serious to me. Okay, so that's a question. And then Dana said, does Jane integrate with any digital scales or lean screen app. Does that make you look skinny? What's a lean screen?
Yeah, I'm hoping
Oh,
it
it
does.
doesn't make you look skinny. It's actually a digital assessment, which is totally amazing. And they
That's
have the
cool.
ability to do it virtually now, which I really want to integrate it.
Okay. As of right now, I don't know if we have a direct integration with anything like lean screen or a digital scale. But I'd love to hear more about it. If you want to chat after, or if you want to give us a call or shoot us an email, I can even give you my personal email here.
Yeah.
One more
anyone here.
thing, Julie is saying, great to know I'm still on paper. You guys, I'm still on paper too. I walk around my office with a notebook and I say Jane Doe, and actually in my case it's Sally, and then her main thing going on, I'll write 2 words. I can't look at a screen while I'm serving because I'm like feeling the ethers. Like I'm like a freaky chiropractor, right? So I'm doing all of these crazy things. I can't look at a screen. So I walk around with a notebook, and I've shown you guys what my notebook looks like. I don't think I have one here, but it's got all of the dates at the top of the page. It's like all of the months and then 1 through 30. So I circle the date and then the day of the week, right? And every day has a new sheet. I see about 30 people in one day. And I'll write down Sally has a headache, right temporal. Oh, I'll write headache, right temporal. Just a red pen to paper. Cranky, seems tired, whatever it is that I want to say about Sally. And then a lot of my practice members like to tell me all about it. So they'll take their finger and point to where they're feeling it. Pointing to right SI joint at top, or point right SI top, right? And then what I do, so in my language, I'm a BGI practitioner, so I'll say P1 for posterior ones or S2 for sagittal twos, whatever it is, what I did, and then a check mark if I think she's good, right? Or a down, whatever my script is. And then I'll take a picture of that. I don't put any last names on it. You have to hear me say that. You cannot take a picture with somebody's last name and text it to a virtual assistant. It is not legit, okay? The other thing you have to keep in mind is you can't, if someone is looking over your shoulder at any time at what you're doing and they're not standing in your office, and they can make the assumption that this person is coming to see you for this, you're defying HIPAA left, right, and center, and you can't do that. So I'll take a picture, Sally, the notes, Jane, the notes, Bob, the notes, and then I'll text that to my VA. She goes into Jane with her username and password to keep things compliant, and she'll copy paste, copy paste, copy paste, copy paste. Most of the time, smooth sailing, it takes her maybe 10 minutes. Seriously, you guys, that's it. So, or I'll talk into my phone if I'm feeling like walkie-talkie savvy. Okay, Alex, I'm gonna shut up.
Okay. I think just to answer the question for Amber, if we don't fill out each section of our note, does a blank question still display on the note? It will, but there are ways of taking that off your note before you sign it off. So let me just show you real quick here. I'll hop into my screen again. Perfect. We'll go again to our chart patients. Again, moving Zoom around is just a whole different skill I don't have. Okay, so if we're in our range of motion here, and we maybe you can use this for a lot of different things, whether you're creating like a really detailed first initial kind of meeting with your client, and then maybe the subsequent you want it to be a little less detailed, and you can do this by just kind of like deleting any section of this that you don't want in here. And if you delete out of this chart, it's your template still is going to be okay. If we delete it here, it'll just be deleted from this chart individually, and any we might duplicate from here on. So one of the common things, again, for speeding up your practice and speeding up your charting, I should say, is creating a really detailed first note, like this chiropractic exam form. If I have everything in here and I get everything I need to, perfect. I can then duplicate this and I can delete whatever I might need from these further notes. So if there's a section like postural analysis notes I don't need in my subsequent, delete that out. Foot and arch, delete it out if I don't need that. And yada, yada, yada. You can kind of see what I'm going for here. Anything I don't need, delete it out of your chart note. It's not going to affect your template. You're still going to have that saved elsewhere, but this note won't have it. So when I go to, sign off on it and see the exported version, I won't have, this is a lot of text here, but I won't have all the stuff I don't need in there. I hope that answers your question.
Dana's asking if we can customize your Jane templates for you. Yes. And again, it's not going to take much time at all. You just give us what you already have and we'll create the forms for you in Jane. Amber is good. I think that those are the questions. What else,
Yeah.
Alex? Did you have something else?
I have one more thing. If you guys want to see a quick
Yeah.
preview of a feature that's going to be coming out very soon, I think in either today or maybe the next day, maybe tomorrow. So I'll give you a quick preview, but you have to bear with me here. It is a complex feature, relatively.
Do you want me to play background music?
I need a drum roll. I need some fanfare, maybe.
Are you too young to know the Jeopardy song? Do, do, do.
Excuse me? Alex Trebek is a Canadian Idol.
Silly
Come on.
question.
But I want to introduce you guys to a new era of, insurance in Jane, I'll say. And I guess we also use that for our for our ERA release, but I'm going to use it for this too. So if I head into any chart note, and you can also use this on our demo clinic, which is why I can show you it. If I go into like a note like this, we have this new feature called billing codes in charts coming out. And billing codes in charts works pretty much as you'd expect it. If I have a billing code that I often bill, I can hit a hashtag in any note field, whether this is a body chart, whether this is a spine chart, anything like that. Anything that has a note field, I can do here. And then I can type in, say, 98, and a whole list of all the billing codes that I bill will pop up. So if I do the 98941, hit enter, I can then do, bear with me with this. I'm not an expert on these codes, but if I do like an M9907, I can just type all of these billing codes into my charts in any note field. So I can have this for different sections and it'll be attached to different sections.
So
Now,
Amber is asking, will codes we use for billing populate on their notes or the super bill? Is not sure if we need it in the notes. That's this, right?
Yeah, actually, I didn't even see that question, but great question. So this will have the billing codes in your actual notes, which is a great feature. But on top of that, instead of, if you've billed in Jane before, you might know that you have to go into their appointment and you have to, go to insurance info or at the bottom of edit billing codes here and add all their billing codes that way, right? If I go to the bottom of edit billing codes now, Jane's going to notice all of the billing codes I've added into the notes here, say the 98941 and the M99.07. I can say, yes, I want to add this one in, and yes, I want to bill this code. So I can have codes in here that I don't even want to bill to the insurer, excuse me. And then I can update my billing. And when I update my billing, you'll see on the right hand side here that Jane's going to update it and add it to the appointment. So I don't have to go in here again, type in all my codes, make sure they're all right. Jane's taking this from the notes already, adding them to the billing code or adding them to the appointment so that you're good to go. And if I put in, maybe I want to put in another like actual billing code here, like hashtag 98940. Or let's just do 3 because it's up here. When I add a second billing code in, I can even change the order of how they're billed. And I can say, yes, I want to bill this. Yes, I want to bill this. Or I can even just hit select all. And that's going to choose everything. And you'll see once I add another one, I'll update the billing and we're good to go.
I love it.
And maybe if you're stuck in that, that same workflow as before, let's add a M9 something over here, M9050, again, not correct. But if I had anything in this appointment panel that isn't in the chart note, Jane's going to say, hey there, just letting you know that we noticed these codes in your appointment that were not mentioned in the chart above. So we have the idea that this isn't mentioned. So we should go do that in here. Let's say M9050.
And you can go back and do this for a visit last month, right?
Yep, you definitely can. Any of these will work. Even if it's signed, even if it's paid for, you can go in and as long as you update the billing, they'll have a new invoice with all of the codes that you have here.
I actually had a patient say to me, you guys, I'm not even kidding. I had her say, my insurance company didn't accept the codes that you gave me on the super bill. Can you put these codes? And I was like, no, it
I don't
doesn't
know about
really work
that one.
that way. I code for what I actually do. Yeah, it's interesting time.
It's a wild world of insurance, but it's not that wild.
Wild, wild west, right?
Dana, if I'm not billing insurance, but I still put my codes in case they want to self-submit, do I need the insurance upgrade? Not necessarily. You don't need it. But I will say that if you did want to go for the insurance upgrade, you could change this from having like just like a chart note that they would give, or in their insurance. You could go and create them a super bill. So it'd be a little bit more consolidated and it would have all of their invoices here. But if it's working for you without the insurance upgrade, you don't need it, of course. And if they're all self-submitting, that's totally fine too. But if you did want it to make if you do eventually submit your own, or if you wanted to do these super bills for your patients, or if they need these, that will be part of the insurance upgrade. Separate from the insurance upgrade. Super bill is part of the insurance upgrade. You won't have the access to the super bill until you're able to put these billing codes in your charts, and you won't be able to put those billing codes in your charts or in your appointments until you have the insurance version of Jane.
Yeah.
Hope that makes sense.
And if you don't,
and also, oh, sorry.
I was just going to say, if you're not an insurance practice, if you don't use a lot of insurance, you could pretty easily create a super bill. But again, there's a compliance issue to it. There's how do you get it emailed? Do you have a HIPAA compliant email system? So it might be worth its weight in gold to just have Jane's feature for insurance, even if you're just providing super bills, which is what we do in my practice.
Yeah, and you might already do this, but if you did, I'll just say it as it's like our workaround for the clinics who just need to make a super bill every so often. You can head into your billing info section. This is where all your invoices are generated. Excuse me. If I click onto Richard's here, in the details, again, you'll see this because I have the insurance info in there. But if I take all of this out, you can also type in all of your own billing codes into this details section. And when you print out their, let's just save this. When I print out their receipt, I can have sort of like a pseudo super bill. It'll have their details in here. I know that some people have success with this, but yeah, it's just our option for people who aren't making a ton of super bills. So yeah. And also I like to mention that if you sign up for the insurance section and you're like, maybe I want to make some super bills, and you don't end up liking it, you can always switch back, no questions asked, and we'll prorate you excuse me, let me step back on that. We won't actually prorate. We'll just switch back to your existing, like the $79 a month as opposed to the $99.
You'll give us $5,000 is what you're saying, Alex?
Don't quote me on that, but
no? Okay.
I wish we could.
And you guys, again, if you use like an eighth of this content, that's fine. Start where I'm always, I'm going to stop share again. Alex, can you do that?
Of course.
People are always saying, where do I start? Where do I start? Where do I start? And the answer is always you start where your feet are. So if your feet are, I want to go from paper to being online, then just start with that. Start with getting your schedule into Jane. Don't worry about all of the fancy whistles and buttons and all of the things. If you're starting where you've already got a pretty complicated setup, then dive in and bring it a step further. Everybody's starting somewhere, and there are places that other people are starting where they're way behind the wheel compared to you, and some are way ahead. So always start where your feet are. There's no shame in where you're at right now.
Yeah, and I'll also say that Jane's here to facilitate any of you coming to Jane. And we have like an imports team dedicated to getting all of your information, whether it's from like an Excel spreadsheet, whether it's from another software if you're using one. We're happy, and we've helped thousands of other clinics to get onto Jane and imported. And as well, we've just actually revamped our onboarding team and our onboarding system. So it's never been easier to start with Jane. There's I actually recorded a whole bunch of videos. My colleague Sophia also recorded the whole videos, and we'll walk you through every step of the way of getting started with Jane too. So,
and the way to get started is go to stafflesspractice.com. At the footer of all of our website pages are all of our content partners. Jane's logo is there. You click on their logo, and it's going to we're going to create a warm introduction for you. Actually, I think for Jane, we just send you right over to the Staffless Practice page that we've set up for you. And again, you get your first month with Jane free, so that there's no like scary, they don't like nail you in for 10 years. It's month by month. If you don't like it, they're super fair about things. And again, there's no hidden weirdness. It's clean.
Yeah.
It is what you see is what you get every time.
Yeah, there's no contracts or anything. If you don't like it, we're not going to hold you to it. Your software, all of your information is yours to have. We'll even help you export it if you need to. So we're happy to have you, and we want to keep you with us. So everything we do, is revolved around that. And we're just trying to build a great Jane community here. And we want you to all be part of it too. So
I think
yeah.
you guys are crushing it. And listen,
Shucks.
if you guys are anywhere within a 3-mile drive to Nashville, join us next week as we represent the Jane/Staffless Practice table at I don't have the name on the tip of my tongue right now, but it's an expo for family freedom choice, raising kids naturally, you name it. Del Bigtree is going to be there. Lots of really amazing leaders in the wellness communities will be there. So come join us, represent Jane, give me a big fat hug when you see me. I think that's it, you guys, unless there are any burning. There's one more. I'm going to be there next week. Dana, you're going to be in Nashville next week?
I was going to fly into Knoxville, but I could probably fly into Nashville.
Done, check. You work on me, I'll work on you, baby. Let's do it. All right, you guys, I'm loving you from here. Alex, we're going to schedule something for the beginning of the summer.
Sounds great. I'm excited for it. You'll see me in this Hawaiian shirt behind me.
Will you really wear your Hawaiian shirt? No,
I mean, if that's what you're asking for, then we can do it. We can do a
sticker here.
I like it. Okay. I'll hold you to it.
Thanks,
Until
you
next
guys.
time. See you
Enjoy
guys.
your day. Go make the world better.
Bye.